The end of the year has a way of exposing your discipline. You either look back realizing you were busy or you look back knowing you were productive. And the difference between the two is always clarity. Today, I'm going to give you 3 small disciplines that will help you finish this year strong and set the stage for a productive 2026. Great leaders like yourself don't just start strong, they finish strong. It's great to have you back for another episode of the Dream Lifestyle Podcast, where our mission here is simple: to help you become the leader that your dream requires. And I'm really grateful that you're here today because we're in December, and that means in some way, shape, or form, I'm willing to bet, I'm certain of it really, that you want to end this year strong, that you're not looking to just coast into the new year, that you want to figure out, how do I finish this year with some momentum on my side? And that's why I'm going to be sharing with you just 3 small disciplines that is going to help you do that, because oftentimes the best way to move forward is just taking a glance back at what has happened with clarity, not emotion, but doing so with accuracy. And that's really what these small disciplines that I'm going to talk about help you do. Now, before I get to those 3 small disciplines, I want to tell you about a free resource that we put together for you here at Craft Your Dream. We put together an end of year audit, and all this is, it's a free resource to you that will help you go to another level with all the content that we're talking about today, but it'll really help you accurately assess how this year went for you, again, so you can end this year with momentum, but also set yourself up for an even greater 2026. And that's a free resource that we make available to you. And you can find that in the description link below, and it'll go straight to your email. So that way you can figure out, how do I finish my year strong and then set myself up for an amazing start of 2026. And that's available to you. So I would encourage you to do so. So today, as I mentioned, we're talking about 3 small disciplines to finish your year strong. This is so relevant to us as dreamers, simply because as dreamers, it's almost like a default setting of ours to always look ahead. It's like a default setting to always think about what's the next thing. We're always thinking about next. We're always thinking about bigger. We're always thinking about better. And as I told you before, one of the best ways to get better done, one of the best ways to move forward, is by taking a look backwards. It's by taking a look back at what has happened and doing so with mature eyes, doing so with clarity, as opposed to playing this guessing game of reflection concerning, what has happened this entire year. Because it's been a long year. There have been ups, there have been downs, there's been changes, there's been shifts. And so we want to make sure that when we accurately assess just how this 2025 has been for us, that we're doing so from a place of maturity. We're doing so through the lens of growth. So that way, when we enter into 2026, we know exactly what we need to do. And these small disciplines are going to help you do that. They're going to just basically provide a framework for you to do so effectively. All right. And so the first small discipline that you can do if you want to finish this year strong, number 1, is you need to review your pivots. This is important because in some way, shape, or form, for all of us, you put in place some sort of strategy, you put in place some sort of plan, and it didn't go according to plan. It did not go exactly how you thought it was going to go. And so you just want to think back at your entire year, and you might need to look at your calendar to do this, but you just want to think through, where did I have to make an adjustment? Where did I have an expectation that something was going to happen and maybe it didn't? And I just need to be able to see, okay, where did I pivot? Now, the one thing about pivoting is that we need to understand, just pivoting is not failure. All pivoting is, it's just a shift in how we get to the destination. Pivoting does not mean that we're quitting. Pivoting does not mean that we failed. It just means, hey, the way I thought I was going to be able to get to my desired destination, it's changed a little bit based on my expectation. Like, the way to get there is different, but that does not mean I'm not getting there. And so we just pivoted. And it's important that if we want to finish this year strong, we simply just review those pivots. Okay. Like, I can tell you just from personal experience this year, oh my gosh, so many pivots, so many pivots this year. And one of the biggest pivots for me, for those of you that don't know, I'm also a campus pastor. And, my roles and responsibilities when I started off, my role really had more to do with managing. It really had more to do with facilitating. Where, when we first launched our campus, my job was more so to facilitate culture, more so facilitate, how our services ran. And that was it, because we were also live streaming. And then maybe, at least at the time of this recording in December, maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, I got the call that basically now I would be preaching every week and that I was basically in charge of running this entire campus based on just how I saw fit. And that's where I really went from, okay, I'm managing to now I'm legitimately leading. And, it wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't like a overwhelming thing at the time. Well, at the time it kind of was, but, especially now, but that was a pivot where it went from, okay, I'm expecting, my role as a campus pastor to be this, where I'm managing, facilitating, being helpful, connecting with people, but I'm not necessarily having to take on as much responsibility, to all of a sudden in just one text message, I am now all of a sudden over an entire church campus, based on vision, based on how I decide to lead. And that just changed the equation completely. And again, not in a bad way, but just in a way of, okay, I need to simply review this pivot. Like, what in the world happened? That was a change. That was an adjustment, because especially with all the things that, I was planning on doing here at Craft Your Dream and all those things, it's like, wait, with that major of a pivot, that adjusts what I even did. And, what was so amazing about it looking back, when I first had to make the pivot, when I first got the call that I would be preaching every week, at first I'm like, oh my God, how in the world am I possibly going to do this? But because I simply just embraced the pivot, but because I decided to just lean all the way into the pivot of, okay, hey, if this is what I'm responsible for, I'm going to do so in excellence. And whatever comes from that, whatever comes from me simply stewarding the responsibility well, then hey, we'll take on what we can. But that was a pivot. Now, when you are reviewing your pivots, there's really one thing that you need to get clear on. Okay. One thing you need to get clear on. And there's two ways in which you need to look at this. You have to look at the cause of the pivot. All right. You have to look at the cause of the pivot. Now, for each and every one of us, we all have to make pivots, but the reason why we pivot is twofold, because you either have to pivot based on consequences, or you have to pivot based on what's naturally happening. Meaning, if you have to pivot because you dropped the ball, because you did not do what you were supposed to do, or something fell through because you didn't handle your responsibility, that's just basically categorizing, hey, this is why I had to pivot. I said I was going to do this and I didn't follow through. That's why that pivot had to be made. And it's just classifying, just kind of taking ownership and responsibility for why the pivot had to happen. Again, it's not failure. It's not losing. It's not quitting. It's just saying, hey, I didn't do my part, so we had to pivot. And it's just calling it what it is. But also, if you know that the pivot happened just because of what naturally was happening around you, you were handling your business, you were doing what you're supposed to do, but yet you still find yourself having to pivot, then you just can categorize it as such. So with my example that I just gave you, that was just a natural pivot. Like, it wasn't necessarily in my control. It wasn't necessarily anything I did do or did not do. It was just, hey, based on the new vision that my pastor gave me, here's the new play. And now I'm going to take responsibility and run it in excellence. And so it's just a natural pivot. Now, in the same way, all of us, I'm certain, have natural pivots. We also have some consequential ones as well. And if I could be transparent with you, one of my biggest consequential pivots really was my physical health. Last year I set a goal for myself that I wanted to be at 10% body fat. And I started off well, where I'm going to the gym, eating right and everything. But amongst all the stuff, just all the happenings, it's like that goal just faded away. And honestly, a part of it, if I'm being completely honest, part of it was just like, I'm learning how to manage my body and take care of my body without being an athlete anymore, which is really different because, when you go from burning close to 2,500 or 3,000 calories a day, you can eat whatever you want and still look great. But now, because I'm not as active, I can go to the gym as much as I want, but I'm still never that active again. So it was just weird. So I honestly wasn't as equipped as I thought I was to really achieve that goal. And so that was a consequential pivot. That was something that, hey, I got to pivot from this 10% body fat goal just because there's actually parts of this that I don't know. And again, I have a choice. I can either feel bad that I had to pivot, or I can just call it for what it is and keep it moving. And so that's why it's so powerful to just review your pivots, just to say, hey, I had to pivot because I just didn't do my part. I had to pivot because I didn't know what I thought I needed to know. And that's okay. But it's important to just get clear on why you have to pivot. And so that's the first thing. If you really want to end your year strong, you have to just execute on the small discipline of reviewing your pivots. Now, the second small discipline, and this is important, the second small discipline is you need to reaffirm your advances. You have to reaffirm your advances, meaning regardless of how much you lost this year, regardless of how bad this year might have been, you still have ways in which you grew. In some way, shape, or form, you got better. In some way, shape, or form, life got better for you. And it's important that you simply reaffirm yourself because, again, as dreamers, we're used to looking far ahead, but we're also used to looking at what's not working. We're also used to seeing what we don't have. We're always used to looking at the scarcity in our life just because as dreamers, that's just the natural tendency of a dreamer. So when we want to finish this year strong, we have to reaffirm, hey, this is what I have done. We want to reaffirm, hey, this is what did get accomplished. This is how I did grow. And when you are able to reaffirm yourself in the things that you got right, now you can do the next step, which is simply find clues to the advances. Meaning that once you identify and reaffirm yourself, and okay, hey, I grew in this area, whether it be personally, professionally, financially, whatever, you reaffirm yourself that, hey, I actually did get that done. Like, opinions aside, objectively, I got this done. But now you can figure out, okay, what led me to seeing that advancement? What were the contributing factors that helped me get that good result? And when you simply reaffirm yourself in these advances and you start thinking about what are the clues to this advances, now you're able to simply take those clues and reapply them in the new year. So, for example, for me, this year, I accomplished a lot, way more than I really thought I did when I actually started to do this step and reaffirm my advances. For me and my wife, we bought a house. I got ordained as a pastor. I was able to lead 2 successful coaching groups this year earlier. I've been able to lead a successful church campus thus far. I've grown. I've grown personally. I've grown in my leadership. And that's just undeniable. It's objectionable. It's objective, I should say. And even, the biggest one, I became a father in April. I became a father. And so it's like, there have been so many advances in my life and so much that God has done. And I'm so thankful. And that's something I needed to just reaffirm myself because, again, I was in the trap before I took this step. I was in the trap of thinking, oh my God, I didn't do much. Oh my goodness, nothing got done. Oh my goodness, I'm a failure, right? And I was in that trap myself. But when I reaffirmed all my advances, I'm like, man, if I'm being honest, I got a lot done. And that's something I should be proud of. That's something that I can take to the bank. That's something I can hold on to. And within that, when I was able to reaffirm these advances, I was able to find clues. And one of the biggest clues for me was agreement with my wife. Like with everything that I had accomplished this year, with everything that we are currently working on, I know that one of the keys to my success, one of the clues to success for me is I need to have agreement with my wife. And while that might seem elementary, it might seem simple, but it is like a little nugget that I can hold on and keep with me with something else that I'm going to be pursuing in 2026, where it's like, hey, I lose nothing by making sure I have agreement with my wife before I pursue and build something more. And that's just a clue because, again, if it worked for me in 2025 and it's going to work for me in 2026. So I have to reaffirm, hey, this got me good results. And then I find the clues surrounding around what led me to those good results. And so one of the things you have to understand is that when you reaffirm yourself, when you reaffirm your advances, it makes you realize that this year is something to be grateful for and something to be built on. And that is a result of you simply looking back and saying, you know what? This is what actually worked this year. This is what I did that actually got me a good result. And it's objective. It's not about an opinion. It's not about what anybody else thinks. It's not about what anybody else's expectation. Because of the work I did, these are the results I got, and I'm proud of me for it. That's the power that you get. And even better than that, you can build on top of that foundation of gratitude. And so when we want to truly finish this year strong, number one, we want to review our pivots. Number two, we want to reaffirm our advances. And then the third and final thing that we want to do is that we want to write your lessons from the year. All right. You want to write your lessons learned from the year. This is important because all of us in some way, shape, or form, as we've grown, as we've taken losses, as we've made pivots, We've all learned something, and it's critical. It is vital that you simply write it down. Write down the lesson, because this personal lesson is something that you pull from your real life, your really lived experience. And so one of my personal lessons that I learned from this year is that I am capable of way more than I think. And that might sound motivational, but it actually was more of a revelation to me, because I'm a big dreamer. I am someone that, I know what greatness looks like and everything. But when I think about just all that has been accomplished this year for myself and all that I had to navigate through and fight through and everything, I realized that, man, I really am capable of more. And that excites me, where it's like there's more on the inside of me, and I want to see it discovered. I want to see it come to pass. I want to see it come to life in reality. Because there is definitely moments, like if you had told me all that I'd be doing, being a father, leading a church campus, growing a business, helping others grow businesses, staying in shape, like doing all the things that I've done this year, I would have said there's no way. Like I would have said that is a lot. That's too much. But here I am doing it and having a blast. Here I am doing it, and I'm not tired. I'm not, worn down or anything like that. And it's literally just because, man, as a lesson that I can keep with me for the rest of my life, man, I'm capable of more than I think. And that's, all of us have access to that level of power. All of us have access to simply write down a lesson that's learned from our lived experience. And that's something you can do. And again, you might pull from a negative experience. You might pull from something that didn't go well, but you still have a lesson that can stick with you for the rest of your life. And one of the most powerful things about these lessons that we pull as a result of us simply reflecting well is that you can turn that lesson into a principle. And so one of the principles that I really pulled from my lesson was simply that my capability is directly tied to my ability to believe. Like my capability as an individual, my capability as Trev is directly tied to my ability to believe in myself. Like this year for me personally, if I'm being transparent with you, I have gone at a deeper level of self-belief where I believe what's possible. Like I believe that, people can live in prosperity. I believe that some people can build businesses, but there was a gap. There was a clear ceiling on what I believed I could do. And, that was something that God really helped me break through this year, and I'm still developing in it, but it helped me realize, man, there's more in me, and my capability, like what I'm able to get done, is directly tied to simply my ability to believe in me. And so that's a principle that I'm able to pull from the lesson of saying, hey, as a principle, it changes. It exists in any space. It exists not just for me, it exists for you as well. That your capability is directly tied to your ability to believe in yourself. And so when you take the time to truly just write your lessons that you learned from the year, you're able to get the lesson from the lived experience, but you also can turn that lesson into a principle that can stay with you for the rest of your life and can apply to every area of your life as a result of your disciplining of yourself to write it down. And so this helps a lot simply because when you write down the lesson, you don't have to repeat the test and you can leverage the experience. Say it one more time. This helps, writing down the lesson that you learned from this year. It helps because you won't have to repeat the test and you can leverage the experience. So with these three things in mind, you are setting yourself up with these three disciplines that I just shared so that way you can finish this year strong and create for yourself a launching pad into the new year. And so just as a review of everything that we talked about, the first thing that we want to do, the small disciplines, a small discipline just takes a little bit of time. The first small discipline simply is to review your pivots, where you look back at this year and you simply say, okay, where did I have to make an adjustment? Where did I have to change the way in which I wanted to get to the destination? What did I have to do? Was it by my own hand or was it just natural? Right? That's number one. Secondly, reaffirm your advances. You got something done this year and you need to reaffirm yourself in the fact of, hey, I do get things done. Right? So you need to reaffirm yourself. That's number two. And then third and final is that you need to write your lessons learned from the year. You do these three things, I'm telling you, you are going to finish this year strong, not just feeling better, but you're going to finish this year equipped to do more. So that way, this next year in 2026 will be the best year of your life, simply because you decided to take a glance back and pull those lessons, pull those experiences in a way and leverage them for the future. And so I hope that this episode helped you. And if this did in any way, shape, or form, I'm only going to ask one favor of you. I'm going to ask you to share this with someone that you know. And if you want to go deeper on this content, download that end of year audit that I told you about at the very beginning of this episode. But understand, regardless of where you are, regardless of how much you've accomplished, whether you're in business, whether you're in professional space, corporate, or you're in ministry, wherever you're at, always remember, your dream is possible as long as you're willing to grow for it. I'll see you in the new year.